Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness in the highest levels of love light. I wanted to just go into a little flow, but first I wanted to just kind of drop in and invite everyone to say to yourself, how am I feeling? How are you feeling right now? Recognizing how we're feeling. Crunch time, you guys, for a lot of people. This week has been extremely challenging for a lot of people, myself included, and last week. How do we handle everything here now all at once? You guys, it's like we're riding a wave. And I was thinking of Chopu, for example, this big wave. And we feel the push getting us ready to push us through the barrel. We're in the barrel. We can't really see what's ahead of us. And we're feeling the push from behind us, and we're just doing the best we can to stay on that board. Yet at the same time, we're noticing the beauty around us, feeling the power of the ocean, feeling the stability of the board, feeling maybe that we're about to fall off. Maybe we're having a wipeout right now. I'm using all these surfing analogies, but I keep being shown that there's another big wave coming behind us, which gives us another opportunity to get back up on our boards and ride that wave. And we're going to find out that wave might be slightly different than the one behind it. Maybe Chopu is not a good example because it's a similar wave a lot of times. Maybe I should have used Mavericks. I'm just using these all as examples because everybody has a different board. Everybody has a different style of riding. Everybody has a different way in which they ride and how comfortable or uncomfortable they are. Some of us feel like we're beginners. Some of us feel like we're advanced. Some of us are relaxed. Some of us aren't. And some of us switch those positions out all the time. There's a merge that I'm seeing of timelines. There's a merge of realities and dimensions. And it's almost like this. I get this picture of, like in the movies, if you've ever watched someone walk through a time portal that they didn't know was there, and now all of a sudden it's there and they're like, oh, what's here? You walk into the time portal and all of a sudden you're in a completely different place, and you look behind you and you're like, did I just walk through a portal? I mean, I feel different, but it seems the same. That's kind of what's happening to us right now in a nutshell, from my perspective. And everything I share on these videos is from my perspective. Whatever that means. However I'm feeling right now in this moment as I share this video. Whew. We were whacked with some energies this week. Did those energies come because of solar flares? Sure. Did they come because of what's coming up from the earth? Absolutely. Did they come because of things that are happening in our body and how our bodies are acclimating and shifting and changing? Absolutely. Did these energies come from the universe and the astrological alignments? Yep. How about the synchronicities and the people in our lives that are influencing how we're growing, what we're feeling? So nothing is unrelated, just recognizing that. So where we focus our time, where we focus our attention, I'm bringing it back to the body. How are we feeling? So it's important for us to ask, certain things seem so simple, like, have I drank any water today? Or did I drink any water? Have I eaten? Am I hungry? Do I need to eat, or am I just wanting to eat because I'm craving something? I go in cycles, you guys. I think I'm doing great. I'm going to make my smoothies. I get my protein mix. I get my vitamins. I start, doing my stretches and exercises. And I go strong, you guys, for like 2 days. I do too, right? I teach others to do as I say, not as I do, right? Well, I'm doing my best to do as I say and do, right? But what happens is we get sucked back into habits. We get sucked back into patterns. We forget, we fall back asleep in one part of the dream, even though we might be aware in other parts of the dream. Sometimes we think we ask for these gifts to come online, and all of a sudden we have these beautiful ahas, and this is another part of the message, and then we don't know what to do with them. And then we get lost in logic trying to figure out what to do with them, when in actuality, we don't need to do anything with them because they just are. And I went a little off topic there, off the wall right there. So let me come back. Sometimes we get in this beautiful habit for 48 hours of eating, exercising, caring for our body, making sure we're hydrated. And then we get sucked into life, jobs, traffic, too tired to go to the grocery store, this dominoes effect, right? And so what happens is we kind of fall into this habit or programming that we are unaware of. And in actuality, we are operating then from that program rather than breaking the cycle and following with positive habits that can then retrain our brain, so to speak, and how it is that we focus and what we're focusing on. So it's really important for us right now to drop into the body because we are getting gifts. They're coming in packages, they're coming in packets. And we're unable to really access those if we're too tired to access them. If we're not really asking ourselves, do I need to go out to that party tonight? Is this a priority? Am I doing this activity because I'm trying to fill time so I don't have to focus on that? Or because that's boring and this seems more fun? When in actuality, our body is trying to tell us, you need boring right now. Maybe it's boring because we're not focusing on the things that truly are giving us joy. Instead, we're focusing on the patterns and habits that used to give us joy. And so we're doing those over and over again in hopes to catch up with that happiness that we think we used to have. But it doesn't mean that we weren't happy. It just means we're a different person now and different things make us happy. We find joy in other things, I should say. I shouldn't say things make us happy, but you know where I'm going with that, I think. So these are all things that are coming up that I'm witnessing in my own reality, in sessions, and so on and so forth. All right, let's just talk about some of the things. I haven't shared all my writings because they are time consuming to actually get out there. I love writing them. This goes back to follow through and habits, right? But I'm going to share some of the messages that have come through, and I've mentioned this before. I'm going to keep bringing it up. So I want to talk with everyone who is out there who's getting messages from their guides, and I'll get to those who aren't or don't think they are. Yes, you are. So I'm going to give it for instance. And so this is for everyone. I was driving. Now I've had crunchy things mixed in with beautiful synchronicities, beautiful activations, beautiful ahas. So not feeling well, everything that's happened, it's like highs and lows, right? Car issues, but it was fine. Life stuff, right? Misunderstandings in communication, then it was fine. Lots of opportunities where I could fall through that crack or get pulled off track. Yet I maintained fairly well, staying in balance, staying in alignment. And when I say staying in my heart, I want to just talk about that briefly before I go into the dove synchronicity. I'm saying this for my own memory. I ask for magic every day. I set my intention to be coming from my heart space. It doesn't always mean that I am aware enough to see the magic. Sometimes until several days later, and I go back and go, oh, right. I was having a crunchy day. I totally missed that. And not judging myself over the fact that I totally missed it, which is equally hard at times. But also recognizing that sometimes being in our heart just means we're feeling. We're feeling compassion for ourselves. We're feeling compassion for someone else. It means that we're doing our best not to project our frustration or anger. That doesn't mean we're not in our hearts if we feel frustration. Doesn't mean we're not in our hearts if we feel anger. But how we handle that is if we're in our space of compassion or not, how we respond to it. We can be a good person and be heartfelt, but still say something in the heat of the moment that isn't coming from our heart space. So then 10 seconds later, we might get back into our hearts and go, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. Let me see how I can shift that a little bit. What can I do to shift that frequency? As soon as we ask ourselves that question, it brings us back into a space of not anger. So that's important right now. Patience, peace. I was asking for magic and I had a frustrating morning. but also a beautiful morning. And I had to drive someplace, and right in front of me, I'm driving down this small road. A mourning dove flies into the road and just parks it right there. I'm going about 25 miles an hour at the time. And I thought, this dove is definitely going to move as soon as I get close to the bird. I started going slower, slower. Finally, I had to stop, and it didn't move. It just sat there in the middle of the road. And I had to back up because at that stage I was like, I can't believe this dove is like almost under my tire and isn't moving. So I backed up and went around it. And then I realized I could have totally missed that and been like, that is one dumb bird. Right? Not I have a person I work with who is a birdie. There's a name for him, right? Loves birds. And that's what they would say. Well, they're not the smartest birds ever. They have birds that aren't their favorite. But I love all birds. Like that was a mourning dove. Duh. Peace. There's my clue. You're going to need to find peace today. And then as my day progressed, I had many opportunities to find peace in my heart. So these are things that we are getting all the time if we can just take a moment and be aware of them. It may not be the magic I wanted or that I thought I wanted, but it was something that I needed. And if I pay attention to it, I can then apply that throughout my day to moments that maybe would have been more difficult had I have not paid attention to that sign or clue. And I mean, there might be a time where I would have been going too fast and speeding and run over the bird. Now that sounds terrible, but how many of us have hit an animal in the road? Maybe it wasn't our fault. The animal ran into the car or it ran right in front of us. I know somebody just hit a deer this morning and it was sad. You know, we were talking about how sad that was, but that'll get you to slow down. That'll get you to focus. That'll get you to wake up and go, oh, and feel love in your heart and sadness for that animal. So there's different ways of looking at it. These are all different perspectives. Okay, so I'm being invited to ask everyone, where am I at in that story? Now let's go a little bit deeper and talk about those of us who are getting these big downloads. Maybe it's channeling, maybe it's loved ones that have passed on that are coming to us, maybe our dreams. I'm going to give a for instance in just a moment about someone who I'm very excited has had this start happening to them. Where was I going with that? Squirrel. Next animal of the day. I'm seeing synchronicities light up in everyone's lives. They may not see them. Sometimes I'm here to point them out. That's my thing. That's part of what I do. That's part of how I choose to show up. And that's part of what I offer in my presence, not just a session, but actually in conversation. If I am aware of it, if I'm present with the conversation, if I'm thinking about all the stuff that I have to do or how I'm feeling or when I'm meant to be right there with that individual, I wouldn't pick up on it either. And then it would just kind of get lost in the shuffle, in the crack, so to speak. So this crack has opened up from my perspective. And I'm going to share the information in a minute about the earth changes a little bit, but these gifts are coming up from the earth and pouring in from all around, and it's coming in from all angles. So what happens is that can make us feel like we're going to fall in. We don't have our footing. It's too big. It's too much. So that's why another reason it's so important that we get back to the basics and really care for ourselves and one another right now, because it is wild. It's a wild ride. I don't know if I ever finished the other topic, synchronicities. So let's just say earth changes and maybe I'll come back to the other synchronicities. Oh, people that are having messages come through. So some of us are having a lot of stuff drop in. It's really important that we are practicing discernment. And that means asking ourselves, how do I feel? coming back to what I said in the beginning, how do I feel right now? How does that information make me feel? Now, there's two things I want to point out. Sometimes we can be afraid because it's something we haven't experienced before. We can be afraid because we doubt ourselves or because we believe that that stuff is, if you found this channel, most likely you're not like, oh, this stuff is all woo woo. Might be accident, well, nothing's an accident, but most of the people that are watching this channel are interested in channeling or interested in guides and maybe loved ones that have passed on, or grid work, or whatever it might be. A lot of the topics I've shared over the years. But if you are one of those people that thinks all that is strange, I'm seeing that happen to people who think it's strange, because it's not. But it feels strange. It can feel a little bit scary because we haven't experienced it before. And that's okay. It's good to recognize how we're feeling. And then we're being invited to discern between, is it scary because it's something new? Or is it fearful because it's creating fear in my body, or it's something that my body is trying to tell me isn't for me? Just because we're getting information or because we're tuning into a particular entity or story doesn't mean that information is necessarily for our highest and greatest good. So this comes back to, how am I feeling? If we're in a place where we're in our hearts and we're not in a place of continued fear, and it's usually consistent fear, if it's only little parts of time where we feel fearful, this too shall pass. But if we live our life from a place of fear, we have a tendency to draw more of those fearful experiences to us, the law of attraction. So we're being called to differentiate, to use discernment on ourselves. And then if we're feeling a certain way about the information, it doesn't make that information, that could be information from someone like me on social media, or it could be messages we're getting from the universe, guides, angels, whatever it might be, our higher self. Any of it, we're called to ask, how does this make me feel? And differentiate, am I in fear just because I'm in fear, or is it fearful information, or is it something that's a lower frequency, or it could be something that we're just not ready to tune into right now. That just because we feel a certain way about it doesn't make the information wrong. That's a whole other video. I'll touch on that briefly. There's a lot of information floating around out there. What dimension, frequency, charge am I? What angle am I? What perspective am I in my heart? Am I holding as I view this person, place, thing, as I listen to this information, as I feel into this information? It could be accurate. Something on the news might be accurate. That accurate according to what? According to what dimension, frequency, reality, timeline? Now, I'm not going to get into all that, but just being aware in this video, just being aware of the fact that we are multidimensional beings. Just my truth, what I see as real, may not be what somebody else sees as reality. And that's okay. So part of this is challenging for some of us, especially when we're getting messages from the universe, or we know things that other people don't know. And we're like, can't you see? Well, no, they might not be able to see. And it might not be our job to make them see. Part of what we're here to do is allow ourselves to express, to create, to build, to grow, to shift. As we do that, so will others, not by us pointing fingers and taking over their reality. If that's something that they're here to do, then it'll happen a little bit more organically rather than forced. You can push someone, which I have done, who isn't ready, to a place of resistance, and what I'm hearing, rejection, resistance, and trauma. Actually, sometimes it can traumatize that person because that's not something that they felt capable of integrating, understanding, feeling, and oftentimes they just won't hear you and they'll just blow it off. But other times it'll be, it's sometimes, and what I'm hearing is it's unnecessary in some cases. So just staying in our own lane, really. I've been really called to do my best to stay in my lane. If somebody comes to me about it, even then I use discernment and I try to really form my words from listening to my higher self on how to respond rather than responding in a state of emotion or reaction or left brain analytical information based on what I've heard. I'm Does that make sense? Like I'm trying to find that balance again. Whereas, I mean, a few years ago, I wasn't like that as much because I was in my own journey, my own growth. I had a little bit more ego, which by the way, ego isn't a bad thing. Having ego is human. We all have egos. We hear people talk about the ego death. That doesn't mean we completely lose it forever and we never have it again. Well, maybe some people. I don't know if that's true 100%. But from my perspective, it's there. But we work with it. We recognize it's just like feeling something. Wow, I'm feeling this, whatever it is. And I think I'm feeling like that's based on my ego because I feel wounded or I feel like a victim. That's a form, ego, victim is part of ego. But we tend to think ego means we're better than, oh, that's somebody who thinks they're better than somebody else. No, ego covers many different facets and it's helped us survive. And it will continue to help many people survive if we can, find balance. We're not here to overcome the ego. From my perspective, we're here to integrate it. It's part of us. So we can work with it to find balance and to use it as a tool, just like an emotion. We are not our emotions. We are not our ego. They are tools to assist us in recognizing how we're growing, recognizing what we do want, what we don't want, recognizing polarity, all of it. It's a very valuable tool. So sometimes recognizing validation, I need validation. And when I get validation, I feel good. Therefore, that's why I do what I do. We all like that from time to time, but that isn't necessarily the only reason all the time we do what we do. I'm acknowledging when that's something that I'm feeding off of, and I have to take that and shift it because that isn't the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. But it could be, and that would not be balanced necessarily. But that's been part of my journey because it feels so good when you help someone. And by the way, I'm not saying that's ego, but if we get hooked or attached to the outcome, then that can sometimes be from an ego because we want to be the person that helps them. We want to be the person that wakes them up. We want to be the savior sometimes. So sometimes, somebody out there might be going, ooh, I kind of do that. I kind of do that sometimes. I really want to fix the person. I want to do energy work and heal their wounds because I want them truthfully to be able to walk 100%, to be able to feel wonderful. There's a little bit of me that's like, God, wouldn't that be great if I could be that person? Not always. Sometimes that's gone entirely and I don't have that feeling at all. But when I do have it, I have to be aware of it and acknowledge it. That's part of my own growth. And I go, wow, isn't that interesting? Huh. Okay, let's integrate that. Why do I really feel that way? And so this takes us in so many different experiences. So I'm just sharing, I'm just being really candid with you guys. Because somebody else out there might be going through the same thing as a healer, as a light worker, as an empath, right? All these labels we give ourselves. By the way, there's nothing wrong with those. It's just recognizing that they're just labels, things that we might identify with. And one of the bigger messages too that's coming up is over identification with labels, which I've done plenty of videos based around that. All right, what else? Okay, the earth is bigger than we think it is. The earth has more land than we think it does. The earth has more water than we think it does. I keep getting these messages over and over and over again. Can I validate those? Nope, not right now. Will I be able to be validated and have somebody give me real hard evidence on that? Maybe. Right the second though, as I share that information, that is the message that I get from my guides. That is my message I get from going into meditation, out of body, astral projecting, whatever I want to label it as. I want to talk briefly on that too. Some of us are having out of body astral projection, going into vivid meditations, having sleep paralysis. Some of us are going into Kundalini awakening. Some of us are having ego deaths or whatever we want to call it, dark night of the soul. I could go on and on and on, all of that. Just one of the messages that's come through is just recognize, again, heart center. We are here in a physical body to have a physical experience. Our goal isn't necessarily to do something in order to, and by the way, this also includes plant medicine. All of these processes are part of the human experience. They're not, every single one of them is for everyone. Just like I think I gave an example of riding the wave. I might choose to ride a longboard. Somebody else might choose a shortboard. Somebody might want to surf Mavericks. I might want to surf Florida flat. I might want a boogie board. That might be my method, right? So I'm just sharing all these things. Somebody might be a big wave rider. That doesn't mean we should go out and ride that big wave. We're really being called to use our own discernment and to feel into that, right? And that means we are being called to balance, find our grounded stability as we explore these other modalities for a lot of reasons. But I'm going to come back to the fear factor. It doesn't mean we should fear these things, fear these experiences, but we are being called to invite ourselves to ask, where am I feeling this fear coming from? And can I ground this experience into this reality, into planet Earth? So if we're doing these things, plant medicine, astral projecting, there was a time when sitting in a cave and meditating was the thing to do. And that's all. We're not here, all of us, to live in a cave and meditate. Some of us, yes, maybe. They have a specific task, mission, if you want to call it that. But not all of us are here to always leave our bodies. Although that can be a beautiful tool, right, to utilize to get information and bring it back. Some of us can find that information from inside of us just through meditation. Some of us get it when we have our Kundalini experiences. Some of us so I could go on and on and on. They're wonderful things, but how can we utilize that gift, is what I'm trying to say, and bring it back into the body, bring it back into the reality that we are existing within, and recognize that all those other dimensions and realities are wonderful and they can bring us beautiful information. How can we use that and make it applicable for here, now, all at once? So I'm just sharing that because all of those things are wonderful. I do them too. Oh, I haven't done the plant medicine yet, but well, unless you consider, and cannabis is plant medicine, but I mean, ayahuasca and all of those other things I haven't participated in. But I'm just saying everybody's got their own flavor. So it's wonderful, but I use the example of overdoing it. We have to find that balance. So whatever we're doing or called to do it, balance it, ground it, take care of our bodies, be in our hearts, utilize it to help maybe mankind and Mother Earth. We're not doing it because of our egos so that we can say, I am this. Why are we doing it? Some people are doing it because of that. Recognizing that's the discernment. Asking ourselves, I'm about to work with this healer. Are they healing people so they can be called a guru? And is that the kind of energy that I want to immerse myself with? All of these things are they're all here for us because we are all of those things, right? Why is this showing up to me as an opportunity? Is it an opportunity to see the guru within myself, maybe? Or to see my own ego? Oh my goodness, I could go on and on. So these are just some of the messages of many that I've been getting this week for myself and others. Okay, I've been in flow. So let me go into a little deeper into a little channeling and we'll go from there. And each of us holds a unique capability that is compatible with our own compatibility. Our own ability to see must be compatible with our ability to see. How far can we see? Where do we see from? Where are we viewing from? Are we viewing from the confines of a compound? I'm hearing compound like a building, a compound substance, a thing that is outside of us. Are we projecting ourselves into the idea or landscape that we must escape from ourselves in order to see reality? All of it is one. So come back into the oneness that we came from. Come back into the source that is our source of income, value, validity, value. Ooh. I'm hearing economic forum, like the brain. For we are unable to truly escape ourselves if we are running from ourselves, for we can never get away, if you will. For we are the way. We each have our own way, though, of finding our way home. And this is the beauty of it. This is the prize, the door prize, if you will. I'm hearing, tell her what she's won. The door prize, if we are able to ring the bell, to recognize that we've already won, that we are already one with all of that. And so why be afraid of us? Why be afraid of part of us that might be shining at us from the dark? So we are being called to bring ourselves back into the oneness that we already are. And as we look towards the dark or the light, recognizing that we are only fighting with ourselves, we can let go of the reins, if you will, steer our horses in a different direction, so to speak. Recognize where our power really comes from, our charge, our spark. And again, creating from this place. It may seem as if we are creating from the dark, meaning we cannot see the door. We cannot feel into the handle. That which it is that we are in is too difficult to handle. We may feel as if we are over-compromised. We are compromising too much. We have compromised enough. We have been compromised. We are compromising. I'm being called to play with this. Oh, I'm laughing. So I'm hearing comprising of the prize. So we're compromising, but let us come back into the one prize that we really are. So compromise. A joint promise to abide by an arbiter's decision. I'm on Edom Online. With and together. To make a mutual promise. To send forth, let go, foretell, assure beforehand. Promise. To release, let go. Isn't that funny? So what I'm seeing is there's a lot of negativity around this. Oh, it's funny because compromise is also being linked to mission, our mission here. Again, let go and send. So what I'm being shown is we're being called to be uncompromising in the fact that we are here as part of the oneness. Yet by us compromising and kind of sharing with each other and finding that unification on our differences, that is us letting go, exchanging energy, right? it is, ironically, so funny, all these synchronicities to come together, to send forth and let go, forward, to release and let go. So I'm also seeing this, these cubes, ironically, you know how they have ads that come up? The ads looks like cubes in a geometry. So we are all comprised of this geometry, this texture, if you will, that is interwoven together, layer after layer of a network of combined frequencies. And no matter what we think, we cannot be separate. We cannot be in separation of the unique oneness that is the liberation of being held back. There's a bigger word, I just couldn't quite grasp it. Held, grasp, letting go. Our call is to heed the call within and let go of the need to hang on and grasp onto what another person is here to grasp onto. By doing this, we all heed the call, and this is from the heart, wakes us up to our bigger part to play. It wakes us up to our mission. It wakes us up from the idea that we were sent here with only one mission. For our only mission is to come back into oneness, and we can only come back into oneness by allowing ourselves to feel into the unique individuality that is in this jet stream propulsion, plan words, that is in this net frequency, that is the entirety of the landscape. So I'm being shown like pixels, and if you have a pixel missing, the landscape isn't complete. If you're looking at a computer, you need the whole part of the computer for everything to fit together, or you can't see the picture. And so a lot of us are just squaring in on that one square. And I'm being shown that cube again, the squares. But when you zoom out, you recognize that it's all a fractal. It's all connected. So this is challenging for a lot of people, and myself included at times. But again, it's stay in our own lane. It's continue to be in our space of compassion. And that I'm hearing the mission is compassion. And as we come back to that over and over again, I'm hearing we're not entitled to change another person's title of their book. It might look messy. You might think you have a better observation than they do, and this might be true. Yet simultaneously, they may have something very important to offer the story. They may be part of your mission, and that part or role that they have to play may have been to wake you up. For without their fray, scattered, messy book that you are choosing not to read, you may never have recognized that that book is something you wish not to read. And by recognizing their patterns, we come back to seeing our own distortions. And as we come back to our own book and we write our own chapters, we create the best book of them all. I'm hearing all is one and one is all. All for one, one for all. And together, all of these books come together and create the Akashic records, if you will. They create the library beyond the Akash. And some may say there's nothing beyond the Akash, but we would venture to say that everything is beyond everything that is beyond. There is a label that we've given to certain parts or texts of reality in order to identify what those parts of reality are. But we only have the consciousness in this now moment, in many cases, to view what's available for that conscious level to view, which only gives us permission, like I'm seeing a password, to view a certain, or like a security code. We only have clearance to a certain level. And that level is held within the book that we're writing. So once we change our frequency, we access more codes, or we write those codes in such a way that they create the frequency that allows us to create the combination that up levels us into a different landscape, a different reality, a different view, a different angle, a different everything. So we are constantly writing out these chapters. We are constantly writing out these codes. And as we do this, we up level. And as we do that, we take others with us, for they can see us. They can see by us leading by example, by writing our own book. And so here we are in this moment, this crack that I've called it earlier. Yet this is the crack that cracks the code for many. This is the egg, if you will, the yolk. And there are many eggs and many yolks, and there will be many cracks. There will be many times to laugh at this particular moment, looking ahead. And we really encourage everyone to laugh right now, to look ahead and to see, in order to get out of our head so that we can see more clearly that the ocean has parted just for us, that we are in that. What will we create? I'm going to end on that note. That was a short channeling, I know, but whew, lots of energy coming in. It's hard sometimes to focus, but that's the key. We can play with it and focus still somehow on balance. So in love and light, you guys. In live and light, in live and light. So much love. Much love. Thank you so much for tuning in.